Thank you, Cleo. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Our colleagues in the media, the economists who have joined, and everyone else. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this technical briefing session on Phase 2 of Operation Vulindlela, or OV. Today marks the continuation of a reform journey that we started almost 5 years ago now in 2020. And today also provides us with an important opportunity to sharpen our focus on what it takes to enable faster, more inclusive and sustainable growth in South Africa. To prepare for this technical briefing, I actually went back to some of the work we did in 2020. Myself, Rudy, Saul and others who were around then when Phase 1 was initially conceived and launched, including some of the presentations we made to Cabinet, presentations to the President and others, to argue at the time why Operation Vulindlela was a necessary intervention, and also to give some background as to why it was conceived in the first place to respond to some of the challenges we faced at the time. As some of you may know, when Operation Vulindlela was launched in 2020, South Africa was already facing a decade of economic stagnation, deep institutional erosion, and growing fiscal pressure. And when the pandemic came along, it merely accelerated the urgency for reform. It became clear that without targeted and coordinated structural reforms, our prospects for meaningful growth, job creation and investment would remain out of reach. In addition, of course, from a Treasury perspective, because growth is so fundamental to fiscal sustainability, an important reason why we became involved at the time in driving this initiative with the presidency was because of how central it is, in our view, to ensuring the long-term sustainability of our public finances. The argument we made at the time to the President and Cabinet and others was that there was a need to design a mechanism to support government and Cabinet to ensure that the approved priority structural reforms could be implemented efficiently, effectively and expeditiously. We also wanted to ensure that in its design, OV does not take away the responsibility from implementing reforms from the actual departments or entities who are responsible for these reforms, known as the reform implementers. In other words, it is very important to ensure that the lines of accountability are not blurred. So the question we grappled with was, how do we design an implementation mechanism where the reform implementing ministers and departments remain accountable for the implementation of reforms, and OV, Operation Vulindlela, becomes a delivery unit that provides technical support and coordination services to accelerate the delivery of high impact reforms. The criticism that the government faced at the time was that we are very good at developing economic plans, but not particularly good at implementing those plans. And so the idea was that OV should not be about developing a new plan. Instead, it should be all about implementation, gathering the best evidence of what the critical blockages to growth were and ruthlessly focusing on addressing those. Something else we did at the time was to study the key lessons from successful delivery units. And in that process, we identified the following. To be successful, OV must consistently focus on the implementation of a limited number of priorities, because the best practice tells us that comprehensive approaches tend to result in a dissipation of focus across too many issues, resulting in little progress being made. We also noted that the President or Prime Minister, depending on the context, plays a key role in engaging with reform implementing ministers to resolve problems, accelerate progress where necessary, and holding ministers to account. And finally, that the mechanism we create must be viewed as supportive to reform implementers rather than punitive. From the start, therefore, OV has been distinctive, and we have adapted it to the South African context. It is therefore not a delivery unit in the traditional sense, nor is it an implementing agency. Instead, OV acts as a technical enabler, clarifying reform priorities, tracking progress, escalating matters where bottlenecks arise, and strengthening decision-making with sound data and analytics. This is what has allowed OV to operate across government while enforcing departmental accountability. An important feature of why Operation Vulindlela works is also because from the beginning it's been a true partnership between the Presidency and the National Treasury. Both departments bringing a critical lever to the table. The Presidency provides the political authority and convening power to cut across silos and resolve blockages at the highest level, while the Treasury brings technical depth, fiscal insights, and reform experience needed to shape credible policy solutions. And together, this partnership has anchored OV with both the strategic oversight as well as the technocratic capacity required to drive complex structural reforms. It is precisely this combination of political will and economic policy coherence that has enabled Operation Vulindlela to sustain its momentum and credibility over time. Through phase one, we were able to demonstrate that well-targeted reforms, when implemented effectively, can begin to address some of the most binding constraints to growth. And we saw this most clearly and most obviously in the electricity sector, where the reform agenda is still ongoing, but the progress made in the last few years has been enormous. Beyond that, we've seen clear progress, whether in unlocking private investment, clearing regulatory bottlenecks, and enabling greater institutional coordination, and the team will later take us through some of that detail. While South Africa's overall growth trajectory remains constrained, these reforms have laid the groundwork for stronger performance over the medium term. We have consistently said that we believe South Africa's growth problem is structural, not cyclical. And an important feature of the OV reform agenda is that it targets the underlying structural constraints to growth and therefore aims to raise our potential growth rate as a country. As a result, the economic impact of the implementation of these reforms become visible over time rather than in the immediate term. Phase two, which we are launching today, builds on this momentum with an emphasis on deepening the implementation of existing reforms, including alleviating load shedding, improving the performance of the logistics system, reducing the cost of data, improving our water supply, and enabling the country to attract the skills it desperately needs. Additionally, we are also expanding into new reform areas that are critical for inclusive and sustained growth. Phase two will therefore target both long-standing and emerging constraints on economic growth and the new reform areas that matter for inclusion, resilience, and spatial equity. And these include strengthening the effectiveness of local government the effectiveness of local government service delivery, especially in metros, leveraging digital public infrastructure to modernize state capabilities and unlock economic participation, and finally driving urban densification and spatial integration to reduce transport costs and connect people with opportunity. What will make phase two successful is not just what we do, but how we do it. We are building on the lessons of phase one and embedding clear theories of change for each reform area, setting measurable targets and ensuring that coordination mechanisms, such as the sectoral task teams in energy and in logistics, are fit for purpose. Crucially, we will also expand access to technical expertise, both within and beyond government, and adopt a more dynamic approach to managing reform execution risk. Our challenge is execution at scale. We need to mobilize the full capacity of the state, crowd in the private sector, and create conditions for markets to work more effectively. This means creating an enabling environment for investment into key sectors of the economy. And of course, the relevant departments or the reform implementers are critical in this regard as the problem solvers. From the Treasury side, we are enhancing our fiscal instruments and guarantee frameworks to enable blended finance, particularly in sectors like transmission, freight rail, and water. And in addition, we will ensure that the budget that the Minister will table later this month will speak to the priorities outlined here today. Ultimately, Operation Vulindlela is about building and reinforcing credibility that the government can deliver on its reform agenda, credibility that institutions can work together effectively, and that reform commitments can translate into real progress in the form of jobs, infrastructure delivery, and a more resilient economy. In closing, I just want to thank the media and the technical partners for their ongoing support, and of course, a special word of thanks to the hardworking teams in the Presidency, the National Treasury, as well as the various departments and entities and other stakeholders that were key to the successes in phase 1 of Operation Vulindlela and will be key to ensuring that phase 2 of Operation Vulindlela is a success. Thank you, everyone.